Originally, they were going to be called Tom Petty and Nitro. Nitro spelled Nightro.
Wow, that's insanely bad.
So
Please tell me you have a worse one.
It would be hard to come up with a worse one.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome to another episode of 1001 Album Complaints. This is the weekly podcast where lifelong friends, musicians, and guys whose nits have nits to pick get together to talk about albums from Robert Dimery's list of 1001 albums you must hear before you die. We are going to give you some background on the artists leading up to the album, play some tunes, so if you're not familiar, you can play along with us at home and understand what we're talking about. At the end, we're going to vote and tell you whether or not you do really need to listen to this album before you die, before we randomly select next week's album. Now, a word of caution. If you are coming over just because you saw this artist, you saw this album, and you said, hey, I want to hear some guys gab about that, we are going to make fun of this band. We're going to make fun of this album. I know that as Americans, this is one of those much vaunted musicians of ours that we kind of have pride in, but I got to tell you, there's definitely going to be some stuff to make fun of because we all know in every single artistic endeavor, the process, the result, there's always some stuff to poke fun at. So with that being said, you have been warned, you are along for the ride, and this week we are covering a band that none other than Rick Rubin said, when you go to see their concert, you know it'll be 2.5 hours and you can sing along with every song. It's mind-numbing how many great songs they have. That's right. Today we are covering the debut album from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It is their self-titled debut. It came out on November 9th, 1976 from Shelter Records. And to give you an idea of what we are going to be diving into this week, we're going to play a clip from the opening track on their debut album, Rockin' Around With You. Okay, now that we have level set, I'm going to throw it around the room to our cast of complainers, and by way of introduction, they are going to give a mean tweet-length review, and I'm going to go first to Phil.
A poor man's Bob Dylan gets kicked in the face by a mule. After a miraculous recovery, if you can call it that, the man somehow resembles the mule. He then goes on to form a poor man's E Street Band, and against all odds, the whole thing works.
All right. Love it. Love it. Rob, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Tom. And you know what? Actually, our friend and fellow complainer Alan was supposed to be here, but got pulled away at the last second. So I actually have a tweet from Alan as well as the tweet that I wrote. So I'm going to read Alan's first, if that's all right with you guys.
Let's do it. You should have waited until you saw a response, and then you could have claimed credit for the funnier one.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. The stolen valor will abound. You don't know which one's mine. Here is a tweet-length review from Alan, who is not here tonight. Good news for all you goofy-looking guys out there. You can get laid. You just have to write a slew of iconic all-time rock songs. Even better, you only need to put 2 of them on your debut album and completely ignore the rest. And I'll just segue into my own personal tweet-length review. This is Rob here once again. I wrote, Florida man does passable Bob Dylan impression for 5 decades to become an American hero. Who says we don't have a culture?
Nicely done. Nicely done. And I am Tom. I'm going to be taking us through this meandering journey that is the life and times of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And for my tweet-length review, I pictured the conversation that Denny Cordell had with his wife the night that he first got to hear Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers play. He said, honey, I just found this great band. They're going to build us a new house. I swear to God, we're going to make so much money off these guys. The front man, well, it's this southern swamp person who kind of looks like the Scarecrow from the Batman comics. And when he talks, he sounds like he's not only both stoned and concussed, but he wasn't that bright to begin with. But I really want to sign these guys right away. And then she promptly leaves him and then regrets it when they sell 80 million fucking albums over the course of their career. Oh, that is right. We are talking about Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Let's get into our general impressions of this album. What did you guys think?
Listen, I don't want to bury the lead here. I am pissed that this is the album we're listening to, that this is the representation of Tom Petty on the vaunted 1001
This is the only one
list.
on the list? Holy shit!
Of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers or Tom Petty?
Whoa.
Correct. Damn the Torpedoes, their third album, is pretty much a perfect album. It is like a 10 of 10
totally.
American rock album, and it's not on there. And instead we get this, which is uneven at best. It's an immature sounding band. It's got plenty to like about it. Don't get me wrong. I like Tom Petty a lot. I respect him a lot. Wasn't super familiar with the deep cuts here. You know, there's some stuff to like, but it's clear they have not refined their sound.
Absolutely. That is absolutely correct.
But I would say that all of the charm is there. I've always felt, specifically Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, have a lot of charm to them as a band. And I think it's the way that they approach background vocals, because they do have background vocals sung primarily by two other guys in the band. And I think that that approach just makes them sound real. Rob, as you said, it makes them sound like they're actually all friends. When I listen to it, it sounds like they're guys that like each other and get along. And
totally,
it's very additive. It's this cool approach where they're not just doubling stuff. They're doing distinct individual lines in the background. I've always really loved it.
I agree. Their approach to background vocals is one of the charming aspects of them. Clearly, there's two huge major hit songs on this record that absolutely deserve to be great, iconic American rock songs. I think apart from that, though, they sound scrappy. They sound hungry, which is itself interesting. But they also just sound like they haven't quite formed their idea. And I would say Tom Petty, who, again, I would consider myself a huge Tom Petty fan. I like the solo work as well as the later Heartbreakers work. And really all the hits. He's written many great songs. He doesn't quite sound like he knows what he is as a singer yet, or what his range is.
1,000%. Because there's a lot of Tom Pettiness in his delivery, just in general. It comes through even the way he talks. He's got kind of a weird way of pronouncing things. He's got kind of a weird thing going on. But when he refines it, it works really well. But it's so raw here that at times it's laughably terrible.
Well, yeah, and there's other times where, you know, to some of the things you said, Rob, like, you can't tell if he's trying to sound like Steve Miller Band or Chuck Berry or the Byrds. Like, he sometimes drifts through the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers sound, right? And you know, there was somewhere in between him trying to sound like Bruce Springsteen or trying to sound like the Kinks, right? Like, he's trying them all on this record.
He was pretty open about it in interviews. They said, like, what are your influences? He's like, the radio. I just like the stuff I hear on the radio. That's what I want to sound like. That's what I go for.
One thing that surprised me a little bit, perhaps it should not have, and we've recently covered a couple other late 70s records that gave me this feeling too, which is perhaps why this should not be surprising. They harken back to the 50s way more than I had previously been thinking, which just reinforces the idea that all music goes in 20-year cycles. Like, this just really reminds me, especially in some of those background vocals that you mentioned, Tom, of things that were happening, the Chuck Berry era of rock and roll, let's call it.
Yeah. Well, and as we'll get into it in the story, like, he originally came up as just like a huge Elvis guy. And so that was sort of his inspiration to be a songwriter, was to be like Elvis. And then he kind of realized that Elvis is sort of one of one, and you can't just be Elvis. That's never going to work out for a guy like him.
The other thing that this album reminded me of that I was genuinely surprised by this week, and it has something to do with his quirky, herky-jerky vocal delivery, was the band Television.
Yeah.
I would not have previously drawn a line between those two bands or that scene in New York and this, because I was thinking of Tom Petty as pure songwriter, hit songwriter, magic kind of guy. But given that he is kind of searching around for his style, and his cadence is very strange in some of these songs, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, just really brought that stuff to mind, that kind of early post-punk.
It's interesting too, to your point, that like he seems pretty open-minded about just like trying on whatever at this time, right?
And in fact, when we get to the focus list, there's a song on there that I actually thought was the worst song on the album, but they were trying something, and so I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to include that as what I least like to listen to, because I actually think that those worst stuff on the album is where it sounds like they're not fucking trying anything. And some of these songs did sound a little bit like you got in there and you forced an idea to completion, and then you put it on the album when you should have scrapped it because it wasn't that strong to begin with. And you're good enough to kind of make it acceptable, but it just doesn't have the polish and the shine and the heart.
I will say, this record really gave me a lot to think about with regard to like what is a acceptable like freshman release, right? Like, you know, this isn't exactly like Led Zeppelin 1, right? This isn't, you know, I mean, we can debate, you know, Bleach versus Nevermind, right? But like, I think you see the point I'm trying to make. Yeah. But like, this has two just fucking killers on it, and we could debate which ones, but there's at least two other good songs on this record, right? And then there's a bunch of filler, and then I thought about other records that sort of, you know, are batting 400. It's right there at the line, you know.
Right. I think the other thing that plays off what you're saying, Phil, that I agree with, is it's one of these records where I didn't know the non-hits, at least not very well. But when I listen to it, if I'm trying my best to be honest and hear it for the first time, including the hits, and I'm thinking, man, these two huge hits stand out as obvious successes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not only that, you can tell that the band knew what they had, because especially American Girl is so much more worked than like any other song on this album. There's so much more going on.
Very true.
Begs the question why they didn't open with it then.
Yes, odd choice. That's why I played at the top of the episode the opening track that they put on there, because yes, when I first listened to this album, I did not know that song Rockin' Around With You, and I was like, this is how you chose to introduce yourself to the world.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing I could think is that he was excited to get the idea of their harmonies across right away, because American Girl doesn't start with harmonies, and this track does start with that 3-part harmony vibe.
It does, but man, American Girl's got some amazing backgrounds going on.
Oh, it's a bad choice in retrospect, certainly, and not to mention burying it last. It could have easily been second or third, or at least on that first, or maybe that first song on the second side.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the debut album thing. Of course, it's an unfair bar to assume these artists who ultimately go on to be these great iconic artists, which Tom Petty absolutely is, and have much respect for him, right? To assume they're going to come out fully formed.
Totally.
It's unfair, right?
Yeah,
and yet
absolutely.
And yet it does happen sometimes.
I think the most disappointing part is that 2 songs do sound like fully formed Tom Petty, and the rest don't, you know?
Exactly. And it's one of these examples, you're going to tell us more in the story, but I am thinking of these other recent debut albums that we've covered, like Television, like The Cars. I'm sure there's a couple other examples that sound really like fully formed ideas. And part of it from the storyline was that they had been playing for a long time. And I don't know everything about where these songs came from, or if he was playing them with his previous band, Mudcrutch, or what. You'll tell us about that in the story, Tom. But I know he's been gigging for a long time. It feels like this is one of those examples where perhaps my expectations were too high. I knew that he was like a road dog before this, had lots of experience with other great players in a pretty fertile scene. And so thus I was expecting it to be a little more fully formed.
Yeah, and we will get to it in the story, but there was kind of a little bit of a reset button hit shortly before this happened. And where he got pushed out front as like, you're the singer-songwriter now, and that's why we have you, so sing and write some fucking songs. And
I see.
Denny Cordell, by all accounts, was the kind of guy who would be like, I will come at the end of the day and you will show me what you worked on, and I will tell you what you should continue working on and what you should scrap. And I heard so many people talk about how like that's his approach and that's how he got the best out of him, and I was like, that failed on several of these tracks, by the way, Denny. Like, you didn't really follow through on that, because a lot of these should have been scrapped, I gotta say.
Yeah, again, surprising. I find myself in a weird position just because I really do respect the artist. I think he's been short-shrifted, certainly, with the absence of albums like Damn the Torpedoes or I would say Wildflowers,
Yes.
his solo effort, which is a personal favorite of mine.
I also think Into the Great Wide Open and Full Moon Fever are both amazing.
Yeah.
I agree.
They
They're
are
both
both
great
amazing.
records too. But I suppose the angle here, if we are going to find it, is that it's interesting to hear someone who spent so long in our lives being an elder statesman of American rock and roll as this young and hungry rock band aesthetic.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting here, warts and all. And there is something interesting about that.
Certainly. I think he's got a pretty interesting story overall. And we're going to dive into that. But first, we're going to take a quick break. And we are back. Now, the story of Thomas Earl Petty starts in Gainesville, Florida on October 20th, 1950. He was the first son and the oldest child of Kitty and Earl Petty. Interestingly, Earl Petty was one half Cherokee. And this isn't one of those like bullshit family stories. His grandmother, Tom Petty's grandmother, Sally, was full Cherokee, and his grandfather, William Petty, was just some random white dude. But they were originally married, and they faced a lot of discrimination for this interracial marriage in their native home of Georgia. This eventually leads to William assaulting a coworker so badly that he has to skip town, and they escape to what, at the time in the early 1900s, was considered a wild and untamed part of the country, the swamps of Florida.
Good thing that's changed. It's totally modern now.
Absolutely, just the height of awesomeness.
So William Petty and his wife Sally, they escape to Reddick, Florida, a town that to this day has a population under 600. And so it's just this like backwoods swamp trash place. That's where his dad grew up. And Petty says that he would see his dad like go swimming with alligators in the water and just nonchalantly push them out of the way. Like his dad was a total swamp guy. Wow. Yeah.
The true Florida man.
Yeah. But Petty's dad, Earl, had really wanted to get out of Reddick, and he decided that he wanted to escape and move to the big city of Gainesville, baby, where everybody was going. So he moved to Gainesville, and in the 50s, Gainesville was still a small town. But, and I think this is important for Tom Petty's worldview, is that although it was this tiny, small southern town, there was also a university there. So there was this interesting mix of people that were both like poor rural farmers and college students who were destined for bigger and better things. So there were like a couple of movie theaters and record stores and places where bands would be playing because it was a college town, which I thought was actually interesting. I'd never really thought of that before, but being a college town absolutely means that the arts and evening entertainment are going to be well supported.
There's just young people.
Yeah. And not only that, but I feel like I read that was a decade where the footprint of that university doubled, tripled, quadrupled, whatever.
Yeah, because it's some University of Florida, something or other. But it's like it was a major university. And so it got to the point where like most of the people in the town were actually university students, like when school was in.
Yeah, it is the University of Florida.
Yeah, the University of Florida, yes. So Tom has very fond memories of his childhood growing up, and apparently he loved Westerns. And the thing that he really loved was, remember back in the day when it was the singing cowboy trope. And so he always associated like playing the guitar with being this like badass fucking cowboy guy. And so he kind of grew up thinking that like being a guitar player was kind of the coolest thing in the world.
You like sit on a fence and chew on straw and like have a six-shooter.
Yeah, exactly.
All the badass stuff.
Cool. All right, I got you.
So his obsession with the guitar was helped along by a very important incident in his life. And that is that when Tom was 10 years old, his uncle was working as a hired hand on a film called Follow That Dream that was shooting in Gainesville. And he arranged for Tom to come and visit the set, and he gets to meet none other than Elvis Presley.
What?
Yes. He said his uncle like introduced him, and he's like, "Hey, this is my family," and Elvis was literally like, "Yeah, whatever," and walked away. And Tom's like, "My life has been changed. This is the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me."
Damn. Because presumably that would have been still in a pre-Beatles America, right?
Yes, this was a pre-Beatles America, and he becomes fucking obsessed with Elvis Presley. He would try to dress like him, try to talk like him, try to act like him, try to buy all of the Elvis records that he could. That's all that he talked about. And like, it got to the point where his parents were sort of concerned that something was wrong with him. Like, they were thinking, like, is he like this autistic kid or something like that? All he wants to do is talk about Elvis, you know?
You're like, no, he has obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
But there is a little bit of the mystique of Elvis that makes him this sort of like untouchable thing. Like you said, Elvis was sort of viewed as like a one of one. So Tom Petty never thought, I could be Elvis. He never thought, oh, that means that I'm going to become a musician and be like Elvis, because Elvis was like untouchable. But on a random Sunday evening in 1964, what happens? He's watching the Ed Sullivan Show and he sees the Beatles perform. And he's like, oh, shit. Those are just four friends who are making music together. I can do that. And so that was the time in his life where like the switch flipped to, oh, I can do this. Music became an attainable thing. And I thought that was kind of interesting because Elvis is so much more than music, you know? He's like a look. He's a beautiful man. He's got the moves, and like an awkward, gangly Tom Petty is like, no matter how good I get at the guitar, I'm not gonna be fucking Elvis.
Just the fact that he has such a crazy name. Do you know what I mean? And the Beatles have semi-normal names.
Yeah. Paul, John, Tom. Yeah, there we go. Fits right in there. Yeah. So Tom's 13, and like Saul on the road to Damascus, he is struck by a divine light and says, I know what I want to do with my life.
Jesus. He just upped the intelligence quotient here.
He basically says, I'm going to get together a few of my friends and we're going to form a band, and that will be the rest of my life. And fucking goddamn if he is not right, because he basically starts to grow his hair long, begs his parents to buy him a guitar, and his dad, despite being, by all accounts, a verbally, emotionally, and physically abusive piece of shit, actually throws down $35 and buys Tom an electric guitar. And he's like, now, maybe that was his dad being cool and being like, I know I haven't been a great dad, but I want to support you. Maybe he was like, this kid won't shut the fuck up, and $35 seems pretty cheap to get some peace of mind here. But either way, he gets him a guitar.
How old is he again?
He is 13 years old at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. So Tom has a guitar. Now he needs a band. He goes around asking everyone that he meets in town if they own an instrument and want to be in a band. And he finds a few guys in the neighborhood that play guitar. They all come back to his house with their guitars. They all plug into the same amp, he says.
Strong move, power move.
Well, I'm like, what amp has fucking 4 inputs? What
I don't know.
What are you playing with at the time?
Yeah, okay. I think we're talking like we got like a Fender Tweed here.
2 channels and high gain, low gain, maybe. I didn't know you could literally just plug them all in at the same time. I just thought the thing would explode on the spot.
No. There's like these old Fender Tweeds that have 4 inputs. I mean, I'm sure it sounded like absolute horseshit.
Yeah, well, I'm sure even if they were all playing through different amps, it probably sounded like absolute horseshit. They're like 13, 14 years old,
yes,
you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with all this. Okay.
But he said,
good.
you know, like it was, again, a transformative experience where he's like, we're actually making music. Because they all realized that there was one song that they all knew that they could play. And he's like, it kind of actually sounded like a song. And it was this big deal in his life. And I got to tell you, I have a memory very much like that, where I went to Adam's house and we were in his basement playing. He had this little shitty amp. We both had guitars. I just got a guitar and I was terrible, but we figured out how to play Hey Jude, and we're kind of playing it. And his like mom and sister and dad come downstairs and they're like singing harmony along with it. And I was like, this is like real fucking music. Like, what is going on here? I can actually do this. You know?
I definitely have similar early memories of playing music and thinking like, wow, this is really great. This is totally I'm doing it.
Yeah.
You guys are hitting on the fact, and we sometimes overlook this with our middle-aged cynicism, but this thing called music, and especially making music, is insanely beautiful and great part of our lives.
Yeah, it's really fun. It is
really
like
fun.
when it comes together, it is fun.
We've said this many times. Like, I'm so glad that I didn't like get super into video games or something when I was a kid. You know, it's like getting super into music
or crack
cocaine. But you know what? Here's the thing: getting super into music hasn't stopped anybody from also getting super into cracks.
That's a good point. Definitely not mutually exclusive.
All right, so Tom and his friends, they form a band called the Epics, and they get a gig playing at a school dance. They go on stage and they play the 3 songs that they know, and everybody goes fucking crazy and asks them to keep playing, so they play the same 3 songs again, and they're like, man, I want to do this forever. This is amazing. One of the members of the Epics was none other than Tom Leadon, brother of founding member of the Eagles, Bernie Leadon. He and Petty think that the name Epics is too normcore and they have to change it. So this has been many years, by the way. We're kind of jumping forward in the story here a couple of years because honestly, not a whole lot happens from like age 14 on. They're kind of just trying to form a band.
So he grows up with the guys from the Eagles.
He grows up with the guys from the Eagles. Yes,
that's wild.
Because they're also from Florida,
from Gainesville, and aren't the Allman Brothers from Gainesville too?
I believe that they are, or close to there. They're definitely from Florida. Then, actually, Don Felder said that he gave Tom Petty guitar lessons when he was younger.
Don Felder, other founding member of the, or maybe he didn't found, but he's the guy that wrote the Hotel California chord progression, right?
Yes, that guy. Apparently gave Tom Petty guitar lessons when he was younger. So
that's rad.
Gainesville, fucking hot spot. So the Epics have been playing around for a little bit. They decide that they want to mix it up a little bit. Epics are a little too, ho-hum. So in 1970, when Tom was 19, they decided to change the overall sound of the band and name the band Mudcrutch. Which
great name, absolute great
for
name.
swamp people. Yes.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not. It sounds very late 90s to me.
Yeah, it really does.
It does sound late 90s. I don't know, guys. To me, it sounds like a giant, absolutely giant dried turd that you're using as a brush.
Mudcrutch. That's fucking disgusting. So Mudcrutch is in need of a drummer. And they audition a bunch of people, and eventually they have an audition at the house of drummer and future South Park resident Randy Marsh. Petty and Leadon like the sound of Marsh on drums. But Tom Petty is playing bass at this point. So he is the bass player, Leadon's a guitar player, and they just got a drummer. And they're like, hey man, we like your style, you're in the band, now we just need to find ourselves a second guitar player. And Marsh says, hey, my friend in the back room, he's a guitar player. Let's see if he's interested. And who is sitting in that fucking back room? None other than Mike Campbell, who would not only go on to become the lead guitarist of the Heartbreakers, but he also co-wrote The Boys of Summer with Don Henley and basically wrote The Heart of the Matter all by himself, with Henley only contributing lyrics. So they just fall ass backwards into a guy who's got quite the fucking musical career after this.
I'm pretty sure I remember, because I read a Petty biography years ago, Tom, that he wrote Boys of Summer and he brought it to Petty. This is much later, obviously. And he was like, hey, we should do this song. I wrote it. Petty's like, nah, pass.
Yeah, I probably heard that from you. But yeah, I also heard that story.
I mean, Petty, he's probably like, listen, man, I read enough hits. I don't need to be taking any of these
songs here, bud.
Hits. Yeah. They
did stay friends. I think he played on almost all the solo records, though.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, they stayed partners, right?
Absolutely, yeah. They basically hit it off very, instantly. They became best of friends. They mesh right away. One of the things that helps is that Mike apparently comes into this audition and just lays down a killer version of Johnny B. Goode, which is like right up the alley of stuff that Tom Petty was super into. And he's like, oh, we like the same kind of music. You are in this fucking band. Let's do it. So Mike's like, hey, man, wait a second. I'm supposed to start college at the University of Florida. I can't devote myself to being in a band. And Tom Petty says, fuck that. You will make way more money playing in a band with me than you ever will going to college. And Mike fucking drops out of college to join Mudcrutch, which is so disorganized. They didn't even have a drummer before the day before.
Confidence, kids. Well, wasn't it like Because Tom, I know you kind of skipped through some of the backstory, but he had been gigging for like a minute, right? Wasn't he like gigging when he was 14 years old? And they made it sound, I read somewhere, like he got a lot of gigs, maybe shitty places, maybe not that much money, but it's like not that many people even played music back then. So if you did have something going on, you could get some experience.
Yeah, that is a good point. They played in a bunch of the different places around. There was like a restaurant. There was like a steakhouse. As something rodeo. It had a really weird name, but he said that they would play 5-hour sets and just be like, we do 5-hour sets 4 nights a week. And it's like, okay.
That's how you get good, ladies and
That
gentlemen.
definitely is how you get good. Yeah.
So between 1970 and 1973, Mudcrutch has a few personnel changes, including Tom Leadon leaving the band, but they are playing a lot at the local Florida circuit, having serious success as a live act. They've moved away from being a cover band, started writing original tunes, and this is where Petty really starts to shine. Apparently, the club managers would insist that they play top 40 songs, and then they would just play their own song and be like, yeah, that was a Santana song. And like, they don't fucking know the difference. Like, people in the crowd are like, what?
They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, the managers don't fucking know. They just like, play top 40, and they're like, that was top 40. Yeah, that was a fucking... Yeah, that was a Cream song. You didn't know that? Okay, yeah.
Song of the summer, dude.
Yeah. So as they are getting more and more confident, and as Tom Petty is becoming more and more of a songwriter, he had been playing bass and singing backup vocals. They had a dedicated vocalist, this guy, Jim Lanahan. But basically, he's like, you know what, man? You should probably just take over as the singer. You're sort of doing everything anyway. Jim says this. Jim is like, I think that you should just take over as the singer. I'm really not, doing anything to add to this.
Because he doesn't have like a great obvious frontman voice, but you just mean he was up there with energy and pushing the band from behind kind of thing?
Yeah, like he was very obviously the leader. He was very obviously the front man. And so this guy, Jim Lanahan, is like, just step out in front, man. Become the lead guitar player, become the rhythm guitar player and the lead singer. And actually, Jim leaves on very good terms, and he becomes kind of like a stage manager for them, and he eventually ends up being like their light guy when they tour for years and years, and kind of turns that into his career. So,
a quick question for the group. He gets promoted to lead singer, and that apparently necessitates him switching from bass to rhythm guitar. Is that a compliment to the bass and its importance in the band, or a diss?
That is absolutely a diss to the bass, but that's all good. It's okay. I understand the way that people think about the bass. It's the fucking casuals who think the guitar is the driving force of the band.
Well, I guess he's recognizing that he's not McCartney, right?
Yeah. He's definitely not McCartney. And I actually just listened to the Police episode that you guys did, and I think that there is definitely everybody in the Heartbreakers picks their spots really well when they play, but I do think that Tom Petty on rhythm guitar covers a lot of ground. He's filling in a lot of the gaps there, and I don't think that he has that sort of sparse style that you get from a Paul McCartney, where, like you said, half the time he's not actually playing bass when he's singing.
Yeah, I agree. That said, I do think the bass player in the Heartbreakers on this record gets his moments in.
Hell yes, and we will get to him shortly, because right now we just basically have 2 of the 5 members of the Heartbreakers are in the band together, and that's Mike Campbell and Tom Petty. All right. So during this time, Tom's hanging out with a friend of his, and some random dude walks into the room with an armful of records and introduces himself as Ben Mont. And Tom Petty says, "Oh, are you Ben Mont Tench?" And he says, "Yeah, that's me. Like, how the fuck did you know that?" And apparently, Tom had met him when he was 13 and Benmont was 10. And Benmont had walked into an instrument store and just started fucking ripping on the piano. And Tom was impressed enough that he was like, "Who are you?" And he introduced himself as Benmont Tench. And he was like, when he met a Benmont, like 10 years later, he was like, "Are you Benmont Tench?" He's like, "Yes, I am. Yeah."
That's a name, by the way. That's a real rich guy name.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Definitely stands out.
Yeah. So Tom's like, "Hey, man, I remember you from back then. You're awesome. You want to join my band?" And he's like, Benmont's like, "Yeah, fuck yeah. I want to be in Mudcrutch. That sounds great." So, all right, you got Petty, Campbell, Tench, all together. 3 of the 5 founding members of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, all together in Mudcrutch.
Wait, approximately what year are we at now here? We're in the mid-70s?
We are in the mid-70s, yes.
Okay, so Petty's like 25-ish?
He's like 23 at this point.
Okay. Yeah, it's good context because some of the stories make it sound a little more like a high school era, but I guess he's a little older and he's already had some experience bouncing through bands.
Yes,
is my understanding.
Yes, he absolutely has. He's been playing for a while. Like I said, he started playing when he was like 14 years old.
Right.
Gigs. So he's been playing for kind of a long time at this point. He's got 9 years of experience under his belt.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mudcrutch records some demos on this mobile recording gig that some dude in Gainesville had, and they turn out pretty good. And Tom decides, fuck it, I'm going to drive out to LA and get a record deal.
Bold.
He does not know anyone in LA. He has never been there, but he is determined that he can make it work. Pushes all his chips in the middle, makes the trek.
Confidence, kids.
He just starts showing up at record labels and being like, I want a contract. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, it's as good a strategy as any, right?
Well, he shows up at Playboy Records and they're like, that's not how it's done, man. Like, they took the meeting with him, but they were like, you can't just do this. Goes to Capitol Records. Capitol Records, like, you can't just fucking show up out of nowhere. However, we'll give you a deal for a single. And he's like, nope, I want a deal for a fucking album. I'm like, oh,
damn.
Okay.
Does he have a tape? Oh, he has a tape.
He's got a demo tape. Yeah.
The mobile recording rig or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, well, we'll get you some demos. He's like, no. We already did the demos. I want the deal. And they're like, well, I mean, we'll give you a single deal. And he's like, not good enough. Which fucking bold.
Fucking
right?
nuts.
Yeah.
Good for him, man.
So he realizes, though, 2 people in a row have told him you can't just fucking show up out of nowhere. So he goes to make a phone call. He's like, I'm just going to start calling ahead to try to, make an appointment at some of these labels. And he walks in, dials the operator, and he's like, give me the number. I don't even know what record label. Let's just say RCA. He's like, give me the number for RCA Records. And while he's on hold with the operator, he looks down in the bottom of the phone booth, and there is a crumpled up piece of paper that he unfolds, and it has the contact information for 25 record labels on it.
What? It's completely insane.
And he's like, first of all, he's like, dude, fucking amazing. 25 phone numbers and like persons to contact at record labels. He's like, this is great. And then after a minute, he's like, how many other fucking people are doing this right now? Like, there's just random garbage laying around.
Just
like
hustling.
everybody's fucking doing this. He's like, God damn, maybe the competition's a little more stiff than I thought.
Whew.
But he's like, you know what? Signed from God, meant to be. And against all odds, he gets 5 record offers while he is out in LA. Yes.
Wait, and I don't know if you know this or not, but is this based on some of these songs, or is this a different set of songs?
It's a different set of songs. This is the Mudcrutch songs. This is a
but they are his
different
songs.
set of songs. They are his songs. He has written the songs. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he's like, all right, a lot of them were deals for singles again, but London Records offers them a full album deal. Like, we will produce a full album for you. And he's like, fucking A. Drives back to Gainesville as a conquering hero to let the band know that they have a real shot. He gets the band together. He says, this is it. We're doing it. Whatever you have going on now is dead. We're going out to LA. And Benmont is like, I can't quit college. And Rob, you guessed it. My dad is a bigwig judge around here, and he would never let me get out. He would never let me drop out of school to go to LA and try to become a fucking rock star. And Tom goes, psh, don't worry about it. I'll take care of your dad. And goes and convinces this Southern judge to let his incredibly intelligent and gifted son drop out of school and move across the country to record a record in LA.
Wow.
It's a good thing he didn't go into politics, right? Like, maybe he took the right path.
Yeah. He does seem like a pretty chill guy, though. Like, I'd like to see him.
He does seem chill, right?
Yeah, heroin will do that, guys.
Yeah, apparently so. So they sold all their stuff, and they basically have just enough money to get to LA and live for about a week before they would become completely destitute.
Jeez.
So
good plan.
Yeah, it's a fantastic plan. They're getting all their stuff and they're selling it randomly. And Tom gets a call, and he thinks that they're trying to call him about the car that he's trying to sell. But it turns out it's actually Denny Cordell. a guy who had produced the Moody Blues and Joe Cocker and the Procol Harum hit Whiter Shade of Pale. And he says, I want to sign you. I'm like, I heard your stuff out in LA getting passed around. Fuck it. I want to sign you. And Tom Petty's like, I already have a deal lined up with London Records, man. They want to sign us. He's like, I'll tell you what. Have you signed anything? You have not signed anything. Perfect. I have a studio in Tulsa. I will meet you in Tulsa on your drive out to LA.
What?
And we will see if maybe you want to just record some stuff with me. They get to Tulsa. They play in Denny's studio. And after a few songs, he's like, I want to sign you right now. And he pulls out a gigantic wad of cash. And he says, you guys are probably going to need some like walking around money in LA. Just like throws it on the table. And they're like, this guy's the fucking man. Like, of course we're going to sign with you now. And for basically $5,000, steals Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers away from London Records, essentially shutting them out of like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow.
Which is fucking amazing to me. Oh, good Lord. So they continue on to LA. Denny Cordell, who's the president of Shelter Records, signs them, and this results in them recording their first major single, Depot Street. It is not a hit. The record label comes to Tom and they say, hey, your single really didn't work out, but we love you. But Mudcrutch, not going to be a thing anymore, man. We just want you. And so Tom's in the situation, man. He just convinced these kids to drop out of college, sell all of their possessions, and drive across the country. And within a couple of months, he is in a position to either give up an opportunity, like a real shot at his dream, or tell all these other guys that I'm completely fucking you over and sorry.
Slag off.
Yeah, not these other guys. This is probably his best buds.
Some of his best buds. Yes, exactly.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah. So it's pretty fucking brutal. And over the next few days, he talks to all of the founding members of Mudcrutch, and he tells them that the record deal they thought they had is now just a deal for Tom. The band is heartbroken. Foreshadowing. But Tom specifically reaches out to Mike Campbell and he says, hey man, the band's not going to make it, but I might, and I want you to be on Team Petty. We work really well together. And Mike Campbell's like, yeah, you know what, that's cool. I like you, I like your songwriting, I want to help you, and I also think that this gives me an opportunity. Like, this is a big opportunity for me as well, just not as big as it is for you. I'm on board. The rest of the band's in the wind, pretty fucking pissed. But Beaumont Tench is determined to try and make his California adventure worth something. And he had written some songs that Petty had rejected. And he decides that he wants to put together a band and try to make it happen. And he happens to know two Florida musicians that had moved out to LA independently to try to make it as musicians. Bassist Ron Blair and drummer Stan Lynch. They decide to start recording songs as The Drunks. And they ask Mike Campbell to join them for the sessions. And Mike's like, yeah, man, totally. Like, you're my friends. I will totally come to the sessions. Unbeknownst to them, he brings Tom to the session. And, like, Benmont is, I don't think, particularly pleased about this when Tom first walks in. But Tom's in, like, the control room listening. And he's like, fuck, this is my band. These guys are going to be my band. And that is the Heartbreakers. That's essentially, like, the band, the Heartbreakers, came together because Benmont would not give up. And he's like, I know two other guys from Florida. And then Mike Campbell's like, well, I'm still friends with Benmont, so I'll go help him out. And Tom kind of tags along. And he's like, no, taking that too. That's mine in my pocket. There we go.
First of all, just for a moment there, you upgraded him to Beaumont Tench, which is an even richer variation of Benmont Tench, I feel.
Yeah.
But, okay, so just so I'm clear, that means he kicked out. Ultimately, what happened then is Mudcrutch had two other guys that ended up not on this record.
Yes. Randy Marsh. He goes by Randall Marsh, but I just can't help but call him Randy Marsh. Watched some interviews with him where he was kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's okay now, but that was not okay for quite a long time.
How
watching
could
these
it
guys
possibly
fucking
be?
make so much money.
Damn.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
And again, they've been a band for a couple years?
Couple
at that
years
point?
at this point. Yeah, like 4 years.
It's harsh, man. That sounds
harsh.
pretty bad.
It does.
And then when you combine it with turning it around into a successful band immediately.
Yeah, and like Stan Lynch, He's not. I'm not talking shit on him or anything, but I'm sure that Randy could have done everything that Stan Lynch did in terms of actual drumming. You know, it's not like he was like the secret sauce that turned the whole band around.
Oh no, the drums are pretty hot.
They are pretty hot. Yes.
Well, Jim Gordon, Axe Murderer, plays on this record too. I noticed. But we'll get to him, but maybe you're going to talk about it next, Tom. But so Tom Petty had enough clout to, even though they had only asked for him, like how did he make that work? Do you know what I mean?
Well, he basically just said, like, I don't want session musicians to play because they were just going to have session guys play. He's like, no, instead of session guys, we're just going to use these guys. These guys are just going to like be my guys, you know?
But again, that could have been Mudcrutch, right?
It could have been Mudcrutch too. Yeah. And it wasn't.
Wow. kind of cutthroat on Petty's part, honestly.
Yeah.
So maybe he did see something, a weak point, and he took this as an opportunity.
Yeah, maybe the bass player and the drummer sucked.
Yeah, maybe they were assholes. I'm just saying, that feels a little, you pitched it first like Tom Petty was being forced to do it, but maybe that wasn't really how it went down. Maybe.
I don't know. All I know is that that's the story that Tom Petty sells, and like he doesn't even come off particularly great in that story. So if he was gonna be bullshitting us, I think he would have done it like maybe a little bit more convincingly that he was the good guy.
He'd be like, guys, you belong among the wildflowers. I'm setting you free.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about the splits in this band at some point?
Oh no, I actually don't know the splits. Do you know the splits?
I don't know the numbers. I was wondering if you had it in by the numbers, but I do remember reading that he was because the contract was his. He was like, I'll be taking the lion's share. You'll be getting this like from the start. And it just stayed that way.
Yeah. Well, he also is writing basically everything.
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I saw it as an example of him being a good leader and actually being very upfront about something that would potentially create turmoil later on if you didn't address it.
Yeah. And I don't know what the numbers are, but I imagine if he was like 60% of the money goes to me and the rest of you split 40%, like that probably would even be a little bit generous considering that he is the main songwriter and all that stuff. Maybe he had him on salary. I don't know.
Well, that sure as shit worked out for them in the long run, but
yes, it did. Yes,
at the time that might have seemed not so great. Yeah.
Tom's got a solo session booked with Denny Cordell and he brings the band and Denny immediately hears them play and he's like, fuck yeah. You guys sound great. That's totally the band that we're going to record with. No more session musicians. And so, yeah, as you were saying, Rob, it is two separate entities. It is Tom Petty and it is the Heartbreakers. And they are two very different things, financially, business-wise, even in the eyes of the record label. They're like, yes, you can bring your band along if you would like, but we have no real connection to them. They're not our band. They're your band. You know?
Well, we haven't told this story yet, but I know it's kind of similar to what happened with Bruce Springsteen, except that his band had broken up and then he got a record deal as a solo artist. And he went and asked some of them back, including Clarence Clemens. He had not yet assembled the E Street Band. And he actually, Max Weinberg, for instance, is not on that first record. But he's really being pitched at the time as an acoustic artist, and about half the tracks are just him with an acoustic guitar or a piano. So kind of a similar vibe, but it sets both of them up as I'm the boss. There's no denying it. I'm the boss. This is my band.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like Tom Petty could have cut any member of the Heartbreakers loose on a whim if he wanted to. Right. And so, yeah, it's a unique dynamic, and especially amongst bands where they were friends, like they all came out to make it together and they were friends. And now it's like, oh, we're all friends, but you're also my boss. And, to credit Mike Campbell and Ben Montench, they were not immediately like, fuck you, we big timing me, you fucking asshole. They're like, yeah, you know what? This is still a good opportunity. I'm going to take it.
I want to be clear what I really think about this, though. I understand why it might be hard to swallow your ego as a Ben Montench or a Mike Campbell in that situation, given your past relationship. However, given the scenario, you'd rather it be out front. Yes. And I have admiration for Tom Petty just kind of laying down the law and just saying, this is how it is. So we're either going to do it or we're not. And I have to believe those guys would have to appreciate that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't want the conversation about money to happen when you release fucking Damn the Torpedoes and it sells 3 million copies and all of a sudden you're like, no, it's not mine. Yeah.
If you look at it that way, it's actually insanely mature of a 25-year-old Tom Petty to be like, hey guys, we've been through some shit together and this is the lay of the land if we're to move forward.
Yeah.
But here's where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very mature.
So Tom Petty has got his backing band, the Heartbreakers, and they are getting set to record the self-titled debut album. Except for, to this point, the name The Heartbreakers has never been uttered by any band member. They genuinely did not know what to call themselves. Originally, they were going to be called Tom Petty and Nitro. Nitro spelled Nightro.
Wow, that's insanely bad.
So
Please tell me you have a worse one.
It would be hard to come up with a worse one.
Yeah, Tom Petty wanted to call them the King Bees, which is better than Nitro, but still pretty bad. Everyone hated
But there
that.
isn't a King Bee. That's not a thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
There is also a Heartbreakers, though. Are you about to talk about that?
No, they apparently named it after the Led Zeppelin song Heartbreaker because they liked that. I don't think they had any concept that they were naming themselves the Heartbreakers after another band that was already called the Heartbreakers.
Yeah, the Johnny Thunders band. Yeah.
Yeah. I genuinely don't think that they knew that.
The one he formed with Richard Hell after he left television, to loop it back to our television.
Okay, yes.
Episode.
So relatively contemporary.
Yeah, exactly. Would have been in the 2 years leading up to this album, certainly.
Yeah.
Maybe they hadn't released a record yet, so that made it fair game. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. So, listen, Tom's fucking stoked. He's got his band. He's got his contract. It's going to happen. So he starts writing a ton of songs. They are apparently paired with a team of 2 engineers that, as Tom describes, would wake up in the morning and take acid and proceed to take more acid throughout the day so that they were pretty much constantly peaking. And oddly enough, they were fantastic engineers and just like could do whatever you wanted in the studio, which I thought was fucking amazing.
Well, maybe they were just microdosing, Tom. Maybe it's just a little bit.
Yeah,
Teeny
they were ahead of the
bit.
curve on that one. I'm gonna guess it was more
Yeah,
macro
exactly,
dosing, but you know, yeah. So apparently the band is like they're really putting in the work. They would go in, do a full day of recording. Denny would come in, say these are shit. I think this one is promised. Go workshop it some more. Bring it back to me. They would go then work more that same day. And Denny also would come in a lot of days and be like, this is all shit. Like, what else you got for me? And Tom would say nothing. And Denny would fucking ream him out in front of the other members of the band and just be like, that's your fucking job. Like, that's why you have the contract. You bring me good fucking songs. Like, you can't say I don't have anything. That's why we gave you the contract. So, again, credit to Denny. He's like, listen, I fucked over all the other guys in this room for you. You need to prove why I did that, you know?
So, but presumably he's drawing from his old songs to some extent, right? But maybe they're just not making the cut.
I don't think that they're really drawing from many of his old songs. A lot of these were songs that he was writing specifically for this. And eventually in November of 1976, they have enough acceptable material to release their first album, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. They've been slaving over it for months, enduring Denny Cordell reading Tom the riot act on many occasions, and they finally have an album that is worthy of release. With songs like Breakdown and American Girl, staples of rock radio for the next 30 years on this album. Clearly it's going to be a hit. It is released in November 1976, and nobody gives a shit at all. And that is going to bring us to this week's edition of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers by the numbers.
Go ahead, give it to me.
The first number is 29. As in, it took this album 29 years to go gold in the
What?
U.S. or anywhere else.
Bonkers.
How the hell is that
29
possible?
bucks.
Fucking
Years?
bonkers. 29 years to go gold.
This was released when? 1977?
1976.
Why is American Girl so ubiquitous throughout our entire lives then?
I know. It is such a staple of the radio.
Did it pick up speed like after we came of age or something?
In like 1995.
Well, maybe it wasn't in a big Hollywood movie I'm not thinking of or something like that.
There was a re-release of not a re-release of it. Like it hit the charts. We'll talk about it later. But it ends up hitting the charts again, like in the 90s.
Well, I remember there was the greatest hits comp that came out when we were in high school that had a new hit on it, which was fucking amazing.
It was, yes, fucking amazing as well. Yes.
They're like, just add some filler tracks so we can resell your shit to new people. And he's like, I will make a new greatest hit and it will go and be released on my greatest hits album.
Yes.
I will give you one banger.
Yeah. So the next number on our focus list is 52, as in Tom Petty has 52 acting credits on IMDb.
What?
Including a recurring role on the show King of the Hill as a neighbor named Mud Dauber.
Is that a Mud Crutch reference?
Yeah, I'm sure that it is, because I'm also probably sure that Mike Judge was a huge Tom Petty fan and probably a Mud Crutch fan as well back in the day. But I just thought that was interesting. Like, he actually has had like some serious roles and stuff. He was in that movie The Postman with Kevin Costner, which sucked. But
I'm genuinely surprised. I remember hearing about him on King of the Hill. That sounds familiar. But I don't recall seeing him in a movie. Just not in any notable ones. I mean, yeah, Who Saw the Postman, right?
Yeah, right. I didn't watch that, and I love Waterworld. I still didn't watch that piece of shit movie. And the next number we're going to throw out, which has been talked about already, but it has to be restated, is that this is the one and only album by Tom Petty on this list, either as a solo artist or in the Heartbreakers. And fuck you, Dimery, and fuck your entire fucking United Kingdom over there and your bias against Americans.
I know you guys. Fuck the whole country.
I do think this is one of the more egregious examples of A, picking the wrong record, and B, giving short shrift to an artist with such a legacy career.
Yeah.
Both of those things are happening here.
And I do think that there is an Americanness to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers as well. I do think that there's a little bit of that southernness to it, a little bit of Americana aspect to it that I could see maybe not playing all that well overseas. However, when we pick our story back up, we're going to see how absolutely wrong that is and how Dimery is just completely fucking off base on this again. The last number that we're going to throw out is a sad number, and that is 7, as in there were 7 different drugs found in Tom Petty's system when he accidentally overdosed in October of 2017. He had apparently had a heroin problem that he got in the late 90s when he divorced his longtime wife, and that threw him into a spiral of depression, and he had a heroin addiction for several years, but he kicked it and was clean. But he broke his fucking hip, and it was going to require surgery. And he said, I don't want to cancel this tour. I have so many people who are relying on me for their livelihood. And so he got pain medication, and he was using that to self-medicate so that he could get through his tour, thinking it was probably going to be his last tour. And unfortunately, he ended up overdosing accidentally at 66 years old, which is fucking terrible. And
terrible. Yeah.
He was still putting out well-received music like a couple of years before that.
Yeah, there's a Tom Petty record. I think it's called like Echo, and it's really good. It probably came out in like 2007 or something. It's great.
He was a workhorse. He put out Hypnotic Eye in 2014 with the Heartbreakers, Highway Companion in like 2006.
I've listened to Highway Companion. That's good.
Yeah. It's kind of fucking amazing that he has had that long of a career, but also really tragic that it was cut short and he basically accidentally overdosed trying to self-medicate so that he could get through a tour to help support the people that were depending on him for their livelihoods.
Echo came out in 99, so I can go fuck myself.
That was in the post-Wildflowers glow, I think.
But I think he was on heroin at that point, though. I think he was having a hard time with the heroin at that point. So
I remember listening to, he did a soundtrack, like a complete soundtrack to an indie movie that had some really cool tunes of his on it. And one I remember in particular is called, I want to say the movie's called She's the One. It has something.
Yeah.
Totally.
No. She's the One's great. Is that the Tom Hanks movie?
No. I can't think of.
Oh, that's the thing you do.
That thing you do.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that movie too.
The song I remember is called Locks. That was a good song. It'll be on the playlist.
Yeah. I remember this. This had a little more of like a
It was a rom-com.
comedy.
Yeah, it's
yeah, sure.
what is that? Cameron Diaz and Jennifer Aniston are in it.
Okay, yeah.
I would not have thought that would be a Tom Petty joint, but okay, there we go.
But it was made, I can't think of who made it, but it was one of these like indie type directors, like not the Duplass brothers. It was like a 90s version of them. I can't think of what they're called.
Ed Burns was the guy.
Ed Burns, that's the guy's name. Yeah, and he's in it too.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to our story. And remember, we were just contemplating whether or not this album would play well across the pond. So, album was released in November 1976. The American audience could not care less. They get no U.S. press. Their sales are anemic. It has all of the hallmarks of a total flop. This is the era where disco is just starting to take over in America.
I like how they're like, hey, this front man, he's so handsome. We got to put him on the fucking cover.
Yeah, exactly. With his like Forrest Whitaker eyes going on there. He's going, ooh, you know.
I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. First of all, Forrest Whitaker, great actor, made a great career. You know, lots of respect, but you might not want to lead with that.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things is the sound of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, it's this weird mix of, it sounds too much like older rock stuff, get a little almond twinge with its southernness. It's not new and cutting edge enough to be given like the punk moniker. So people really don't know how to categorize them. But the British press does take notice. And they start to write articles about this new American band that has an intriguing style and solid songwriting. And Denny Cordell, who is an Englishman, he's like, fuck, there's a way to make some money playing in the UK. Let's go over there. And he sets up a tour of the United Kingdom and parts of Europe. And they're a huge hit. They are met at the plane by reporters when they land.
You're telling me that for once, British people like good music?
Yeah, seriously.
This is the only time that's happened?
Yeah. This, you know, they're about to get into, you know, all the fucking Joy Division bullshit that's about to spring up shortly after. So
it's called rage bait, audience.
Yes. So basically, they go to the UK. They're on like Top of the Pops, the Old Grey Whistle Test. They're the toast of the fucking town. And they're getting like fawning stories written about them in the press. They're having like fans following their cars and shit. Like, it was crazy. They're definitely like, this is absolutely insane.
It's like, whoa, I'm a Beatle.
Yeah. And then they go back to America and nobody fucking cares still. They're very confident that they have something good going, but the sales suck. Apparently, when they go back and hit the road in the US, they're like playing crappy small market towns to non-sold out audiences that don't know their songs. And they would have guys from the record company come and meet them before the show and be like, here's a stack of records I couldn't even give away. Maybe you can sell them at the show. And they're like, we just came from getting this crazy reception, and now in our home country, people don't fucking care about us at all.
I can relate to that, except nobody cares, regardless. You know?
Yeah, nobody cares in
we have
other
yet to find a country where someone does care.
Yeah. Micronesia, though, we're gonna get to you someday. It'll be huge there. So again, this is 1977, and I get it. Like stuff like the television album Marquee Moon, Talking Heads 77, Sex Pistols debut, they all sound more fresh and dangerous and hip than Tom Petty's sound. And Tom Petty, the thing that he always just has going on is it's just fucking solid songs. They're punchy, they're short, they're well-constructed songs. And I don't think that a lot of like, especially the hip music press was looking to just write about like a just workman, like good fucking songwriter, you know? They were looking for new, hot, fresh things. So they weren't really getting a lot of attention. And the lazy categorization of a lot of people was that they were punk. But when you hear punk, either you like punk or you don't like punk. And if you like punk and you listen to Tom Petty, you're like, I don't really like this. So even the people that were getting directed towards them, they weren't really, you know, they couldn't find a musical home, really. And despite not having this easy category to slot into, word is starting to get back to the US, though, that they did have this monster reception in the UK. And so that, oddly, is what ends up getting them some favorable attention from the press. That the press is like, I'm hearing from the UK press that these guys are fucking awesome. Maybe I should reevaluate my impression of them. Which is such bullshit, by the way.
We're such followers sometimes. It's so embarrassing,
it's
America.
Yeah. So they're like, you know what? We're getting a little bit more attention now. We're still confident in this album. So a full year later, 1977, they re-release Breakdown as a single. And it actually ends up becoming a top 40 hit just barely. It hits number 40 and then very quickly goes away. And Rob, as you said, American Girl is on this album, and I actually was like dreading having to listen to it because I heard it so much on the radio growing up. How is it that that song was completely passed over in the era that it was originally released? Again, American Girl didn't chart in the US until it was reissued in 1994, when it went to number 9 on the bubbling under the Hot 100 chart, which means that it's the 9th song out of the 100 top songs that hasn't been on the top 100 yet. And so there could have been 40 songs ahead of it, but they had already been on the top 100 and left. And so it's like the bubbling under. I would have thought that it was a number 1 hit, just based upon my life experience.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I've seen every cover band, every dude in the corner with an acoustic guitar, and every woman who's at like too many being like,
Yeah. It's a great song. It's immensely singable chorus. Like everybody can sing that chorus.
The lyrics are beautiful. They're like impressionistic and poetic, and you kind of don't realize how beautiful they are.
Yeah, until you start to dive in. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but I was definitely smitten with the lyrics this week.
Yep.
So 1977, they're starting to get a little bit more buzz. At this point, they're basically already writing everything for their follow-up album, 1978's You're Gonna Get It, with an exclamation point. It's a stupid fucking title. And honestly, like, with that title, I'm like, oh, Nitro makes a little bit more sense now that you thought that that was a great title for your second album. You're Gonna Get It. You're Gonna Get It has hits like I Need to Know and Listen to Her Heart, the latter of which actually received very limited airplay because Tom Petty refused to change the opening lyric from "You think you're going to take her away with your money and your cocaine" to "with your money and your champagne," which seems pretty innocuous, but he was like, no. I am standing on principle here. I must say cocaine.
My lyrics are my children.
Yes.
That was one of the first songs I learned how to play on guitar.
It's a great song.
Great song.
Its song is about Ike Turner trying to fuck Tom Petty's wife.
Wow.
Yeah. And apparently, yes, literally was like, I got a bunch of money and a bunch of coke. Why don't you leave Tom and come fuck me? And he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to write a song about that. That's a pretty good song.
Wouldn't be a cliche if it hadn't worked many times.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Tom standing on principle means that Listen to Her Heart gets very limited airplay. Because they're like, you can't say cocaine on the radio. Not in the second fucking line of the song, certainly. Very prominently, you can't say cocaine on the radio. So it gets limited airplay. And this is one of several times that Tom stood on principle and refused to do something that would have been in his financial best interest. Like when Shelter Records distributor ABC gets sold to MCA. In 1978, right after they release You're Gonna Get It, Petty refuses to allow his contract to be transferred. And this is just for distribution, mind you. This is not somebody coming in being like, we want to have creative control over. No, it's just a different company does distribution. And instead of allowing that to happen, Tom Petty files for bankruptcy and basically says, fuck you, I will not let that happen.
Strong-willed man.
And it gets him out of his contract. You're Gonna Get It does become their first gold record, but I think we all know what's coming because it's 1979 and they're going to release Damn the Torpedoes. And that album with singles like Refugee, Don't Do Me Like That, Even the Losers goes gold within like 4 months of its release and then goes platinum 2 weeks after it goes gold.
If you learn nothing from this podcast, please listen to Damn the Torpedoes. It's like hit after hit. Everything is polished. It's great.
Like you said, Rob, it's an unimpeachable album. I cannot believe it is not on the list.
Yeah.
When I was originally doing the research, I was like, I got to save so much content for all the future Tom Petty episodes. But no, apparently not. Fucking dimery. Anyway, they released Hard Promises in 81, Long After Dark in 82. That album does not feature Ron Blair. He leaves the band in 82, and I think that the financial arrangement was kind of starting to get to him, especially after Damn the Torpedoes, because I'm sure he's doing well, but he ain't doing fucking Tom Petty well. And I think that chafed him a little bit. And Tom Petty's like, that sucks. Anyway, let's get a new bass player. And they released Southern Accents in 1985, which features Don't Come Around Here No More, which I know for a lot of us MTV kids was probably like the first time that we really consciously heard Tom Petty, because he had that fucking psychedelic Alice in Wonderland music video where he's the Mad Hatter, which was amazing.
It was a very hip video.
Yeah. They released a live album in 85, and then in 87, they released Let Me Up, parentheses, I've Had Enough, which gold's gold, but they have not really captured the success of that run that they had of those, like, you know, early 80s, late 70s albums. And Tom Petty's like, you know what? Maybe I'll just give a shot at putting out a solo album. You know, we'll just see what we can do. And he puts out Full Moon Fever. 6 times platinum in Canada, 5 times platinum in the U.S.
I mean, that's another one that plays like a greatest hits album.
Absolutely.
It's insane.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely
just
insane.
stone cold killer.
If you're in the Heartbreakers, you're like, where the fuck were these songs last time we were in the studio, Tom?
Well, here's the funny thing. You know who plays on the album? Mike Campbell and Ben Montench.
Of
both
course.
play on that album. So
Right.
Yeah.
But Tom had to get a little bit of a bigger cut.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a solo
Exactly.
record, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Running Down a Dream, You're So Bad, I Won't Back Down, and fucking Free Fallin' are on that album. And Free Fallin' has got to be one of the biggest played songs of all time. That song is a massive hit.
I honestly think that if you just played that record for most Americans, they'd go, this is Tom Petty's greatest hits. And you go, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's actually his first solo album. Like,
So if you're a Tom Petty fan, Tom, you mentioned the album Let Me Up, I've Had Enough. When Tom Petty died, you know, all this Tom Petty was getting played on the radio. Like, I actually heard Tom Petty music I hadn't heard before. And there's a song on this record called It'll All Work Out. Kind of has like a minstrel vibe. It's sad bastard music for sure. Really beautiful song. So, like, if you're a Tom Petty fan, like, that's maybe a new one for you. Because it wasn't on that greatest hits that came out in, like, 96. So,
yeah.
you know.
Well, we'll get to that, because after the mega success that Tom has with his debut solo album, Full Moon Fever, he's like, you know what? Let's just get the band back together. And Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers put out Into the Great Wide Open in 1991. And then a greatest hits album in late 1993 that, as Rob mentioned, somehow also has a new super successful song on it.
I think this is important to note because it was a time where they compiled all the old hits for a greatest hits CD, but they know the fan psychology. They're like, if it doesn't have new material on it, how can I get people to rebuy the same old shit? It was some devious record label shit, so they forced him to do 2 new tracks.
It wasn't uncommon for there to be like a live cut of like a big song or like a cover song on there or something.
So that's what he does. He writes 1 new song and 1 cover song.
Yeah.
It's just that the original song ends up being another greatest hit.
Did that win like the best song of the year Grammy or something like that? Like it was everywhere.
He was good at music videos too.
That Kim Basinger music video. Yeah,
the Kim Basinger music video,
like
but also Johnny Depp was in Into the Great Wide Open music video. The Running Down a Dream video, really cool. The Free Fallin' video, also memorable with the skateboarders.
2 fun factoids from my childhood about Tom Petty. So the Into the Great Wide Open video, if you watch it, it's the rare instance where the video is longer than the song on the record. So if you go watch the video, there's an extra little breakdown and a little electric piano solo that is not on the record.
Interesting.
It's added because they had more video content. So they just cut it. So I'd love to know how that happened. I'd love to know what that day in the studio was like.
Yeah, it's fucking great. They had pulled Benmont in. They're like, come on, man.
They're like, I don't know, just give me like 8 bars, dude. And he's like, all right, there you go.
Yeah. And I got to be honest with you, listeners, all of the stuff that I've talked about post them putting out their debut self-titled album, has just been so that I can get to this point where Tom Petty releases 1994's Wildflowers. And what the fuck is this album not doing on the list?
It's so beautiful.
So
perfect.
Goddamn good. There's so many good songs from it. Fucking
It's
Dimery.
perfect. It's one of those things where, because I think that Damn the Torpedoes is like this band that we're hearing on this album, but better, right? Better songs, more polished approach, etc. So if you sort of like this, you like these songs, Damn the Torpedoes. Wildflowers is a different vibe, but it's its own amazing thing.
Yes.
It's also like, it's like these players, many of the same players are on the record, right? It's just not a Heartbreakers record, right? Like, it's like they've grown up. Like, it's a much more mature sound.
Yeah.
It's the kind of album that you play this for your parents or your grandparents, and they're like, that's a great album. You play this for your kids or your nieces and nephews, and like, that's a great fucking album. You play this for your friends who love hip hop, they're like, yeah, that's a pretty great fucking album. Like, everybody agrees it's a great album.
Yeah, I have there's a vinyl, like a re-release, like a 25th anniversary that has a bunch of demo tapes on it.
Okay.
Just like a second LP. It's great because, like, it's interesting how unproduced the record is, and it kind of makes you realize that. Like, it's interesting to see how fully formed some of the songs are, like Tom Petty on one microphone.
I've listened to some of that because I think they released tons of stuff in the last 10 years or so, maybe after his death, for Wildflower sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, again, not to overstate the case of how great of a songwriter Tom Petty is, but you like look at these albums and it's just like everything's written by Tom Petty and Mike Campbell gets like 2 co-writing credits or something like that. He is the sound. He is the reason why these songs are as good and as crisp as they are. So with all that context, with all that understanding that this is the only album on the list for the Heartbreakers or Tom Petty, I think it's time we start to dive into some of these songs and decide whether or not you do really need to hear this before you die. What do you say, gentlemen?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, we are going to revisit the song that we played at the beginning of the episode. This is, again, the first track on their debut album, Rockin' Around.
Totally agree. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a shockingly weak, like, first album, side one, track one.
I don't dislike it. It's not like I hate this song, but it's definitely like, it's just not there. I kind of can't believe this was in the Rock Tumbler for as long as they said they were working on this stuff, and as much as, Denny Cordell was supposedly this taskmaster, and he's like, no, this is the one. This is the first track.
I mean, it does have I'll save my praise for other songs. I couldn't put my finger on what this reminds me of. Like the harmony, is it like the Birds or the Monkees or the Kinks? Like, I just couldn't quite place it.
There's definitely some monkeys in there, but it's this kind of like revved up version of it. I mean, I think it's rhythmically kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But lyrically, not very strong. I can't stop thinking about how I dig Rockin' Around with You. Like, what decade are we in, man?
There's like 6 sentences in this entire song, and they're all just completely inane. None of them mean anything. And Phil, to your point about the Birds, there was a documentary that's on Tubi. It's a 4-hour documentary about Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and they did have one of the guys from the Birds say that when he first was played, I believe it was this track, and he was like, yeah, when did I record that song? And I'm like, no, that's actually a Tom Petty song. He's like, oh, yeah. I mean, I knew I didn't record it, but it definitely sounds like my song. I was like, yeah, it's an okay opener, but just, again, I can't help but be colored by my perception of what Tom Petty becomes. When I hear this, it's not there.
It's not fully formed. No, I totally agree. I'm comparing him to him, which is perhaps unfair. But yeah, it's the first track. We know you have better tracks on the record.
Yeah.
It just seems odd. It's herky-jerky. I also thought the arrangement decision to have him shouting in the chorus, like back at his own vocal, the haze.
Yeah.
It's very disconcerting.
It's the concept of we want to involve the backup singers in this. We want to involve the rest of the Heartbreakers, but they just haven't quite figured out how to do it effectively yet.
I definitely agree. It feels like they don't know what the Heartbreakers sound is yet. Like the Heartbreakers will, in the end, have a sound, like a semi-iconic, like that's their sound, right?
Yeah.
Like you could probably give them a different front man and you'd be like, well, that's still the Heartbreakers, you know?
Totally.
Yeah, and it just sounds like they're still experimenting with where the edges of that thing are. Like, what if I go over here? And it's like, it doesn't really work over there quite as well.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And again, this is not even criticism on them. It's not even really like that harsh criticism on them. I'm actually more criticizing Robert Dimery this entire time for putting this album as the one to listen to for
like, I'm
Tom
still
Petty and Heartbreakers.
I really think that's the problem. I agree.
Yeah. Let's go on to the next song on the album. This is the song Breakdown.
About American Girl being something you didn't want to listen to and then being maybe positively surprised by it. That's kind of how I felt about this song. I felt like it was overplayed. It wouldn't be something I liked. But when I drilled in, it does have a really cool vibe. Doesn't sound like anything else on the record.
No.
This is a song that I sort of had to come to God with this song a few years back. I don't know exactly when or where, but I remember just being like, this is fucking badass.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so atmospheric. There's just like
Totally.
a vibe to it that's very cool.
Yeah. Great minimalism, which they do not
Totally.
display on the rest of the record or even in their other hits like American Girl. Like you said earlier that Tom Petty fills a lot of space with his rhythm guitar. I hadn't quite put my finger on it, but that's certainly true. But here you just have so much space.
Yeah. And like the beginning of the song, there's this like weird kind of patience to it. You get just drums and then some light guitar and keys come in, but then they pull those out and you get a full 2 measures of just drums
Totally.
again before the quote unquote kick in happens. And even the kick in is very reserved, you know?
Yes, there's a lot of patience.
the drum sound itself is fabulous. It's like you can hear it's like there's little to no cymbals. And for that reason, it's like the room mics can be a little louder. You know what I mean? Like, listen to that snare drum, though. Like, just like literally go to the beginning of the song. The snare drum is like you can hear the whole room.
Right, that's why it's surprising, because this sounds like some of the same ideas they're trying to put together, but just done better. Like all the pieces came together here. Sonically, songwriting, and you earlier said that the background vocals are great in general in the Heartbreakers. The background vocals on this song are awesome.
Killer.
Yeah, sure.
Like both in their conception and in their execution.
I realized how layered it was this week. And I know that I've been hearing this, but it just sort of hadn't registered. You know, they have the like background vocals that just come in there. Like, they're amazing.
That's the perfect part because it's so minimalist. It's like a cool little rhythmic touch.
Yeah.
And that one sounds like it has women in it. I could be wrong. That one sounds like a different group of people than the other one.
It does, but I don't have any information that there was any women on it.
I saw Tom Petty once, and what I will say is that, you know, your man Benmont is like a fucking Swiss Army knife. Like he could and was doing everything. If it was like, if the ask was like, sound like a woman on this track, I bet he could do it.
Well, and the other thing is that you see them live, and you know who else is? It's Benmont and it's Stan Lynch, the drummer, that are doing the vast majority of those background vocals. And I always am impressed when a drummer can just pop in and do like super tasteful backups, because they sound, and like honestly, you seeing them live, they sound tight as shit. And I'm not even talking about like modern day where they probably got people behind the curtain backstage, you know, doing some fill-in notes. This is like 1976, 1977, 1978 recordings, and they sound fantastic on the backups.
The Heartbreakers definitely have a sound, and it's like, it's definitely,
But I don't know if it's exactly this tune, though. So it is an interesting foray into like Booker T and the MGs territory for them.
Yeah, that is an interesting comp. You know what I did not realize about this song? This song is one long verse and then two choruses, and then that's it. It is in and out in 2:42.
I didn't notice the format.
It is shorter than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know, I think this ties to like your story at the top, Tom, but I think the combination of the lyrics and sort of the vibe of the song, it does tell you something about Tom Petty, right? He's direct. He's fucking chill and confident, right? Like, I knew this song had these sort of sultry lyrics, but I was reminded they're pretty funny, right? In that way.
I'm going to give him a compliment here because I'm going to do the opposite of that soon enough, which is his voice suits this song. It's in the right range for him. He doesn't sound froggy like he does on some of the other tunes. I was even compelled, and I'll bring it up again on other tunes, to like go in and go like, what note is he singing? Like, what is his range? Does he understand it? And the truth is he doesn't differ that much, but this is the right way to use his voice.
Totally. He gets a little push, but he can hit it, but it still sounds like he's working for it.
Yep.
He also, in this song, says a bunch of words kind of funny, right? Like, he plays, like, right in the beginning, like, it's all right if you love me, it's all right if you don't.
Well, you've heard him talk. He sounds fucking weird when he talks.
I agree with that, but he definitely puts some action on some of these deliveries.
I remember seeing an interview with him in the 90s where they were talking to him about, like, what made you want to become a professional musician? He's like, well, when you got a voice like this, what the hell else you going to do? And I was like, yeah, becoming a lead singer was not on my list of things that I would do if I sounded like that. I was just talking. There's a great story about this. Apparently, that guitar line, the iconic da-na-na-na-na-na-na, was originally just played over the outro of the song. And Tom Petty was sitting in the studio with a friend, and they were listening to some playbacks. And the friend was like, you should put that in the whole song. And Tom Petty's like, fuck yeah. And he gets on the phone and he rousts all of the Heartbreakers out of bed, and he gets them into the studio at 2:00 in the morning, and they recorded this version of the song, and it's the one that ends up on the album. He's basically like, yeah, just put it in everywhere. Great, let's do it.
It's a great call, but it's also interesting in the context of it being so minimalist.
Yeah.
Like, they were clearly trying to exercise restraint with the background vocals, with rhythm guitar, and perhaps starting out with the guitar riff. So then that he was willing to bring it back and put it in the rest of the song which works, is very telling.
It is. And one of the things that the better points of this album made me realize is nobody in this band is doing anything that is all that complicated. They're just doing very tasteful things. And I think that just led to I don't want to say bare bones sound, but I definitely do want to say that it led to this like straightforwardness in their sound that I think is very approachable. That aspect of it grew on me as I dug into the album more this week.
And it suits the songwriting.
Yeah,
like Phil said,
absolutely.
He's being straightforward in his lyrics. It seems like he's a straightforward, blunt kind of person. And, the best thing you can say about a musician is that they do something that suits the song.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go into the next song that we're going to talk about, the very oddly titled, why do they call it Strangered in the Night?
I looked at some other Tom Petty records this week, just like literally browsed songs, and he has a tendency to have like a bad pun or two, like a song title. It's just like I struggle to even call this a pun, right? Yeah. But it's like pun adjacent.
I feel like they brought this song to Denny Cordell, and he's like, there's already a song called Strangers in the Night, man. It's very famous. It's a fucking Frank Sinatra song. He's like, all right, well, we'll just call it Strangered in the Night. Like, fine.
That's kind of what I assumed happened. And I remember looking at the track list and going like, oh, okay, this is like an interesting little riff, little wordplay on that idea, but then they don't even use it in the song. No. It's pretty silly.
Yeah.
I actually thought he was mocking Bob Dylan on this one when he punches that queer line about 50 seconds in. It's jarring.
There's some bizarre lyrics in this one. I saw this crazy black guy with a demon in his eyes, and I heard him say, white man, I've seen that silver Q. I'm like, well, you're getting a little explicit there, Tom. I don't know why you had to really punch again that he was a black guy or punch that he's a queer.
It feels by the numbers to me as for such a great songwriter. But I just want to emphasize the vocal thing because I think he's really out of his element here. It just sounds like he's misplaced this in terms of his vocal range. And I did want to point out that I noticed that the high note, the queer note, is lower than the highest note in breakdown. However, he has to like land on it and punch it. And I always think of it with notes. I always think of it as like the difference between jumping up and just tapping the rim with your fingers versus jumping up and hanging on it. It's a really different vibe. It's, you know what I mean? You might think because you could touch it that you can hang on it, but you can't.
That you can dunk. Those are different things.
No, not at all.
I do like the background vocals on this a lot, and I do think that, again, it really reads as like, we're not a bunch of studio musicians, we're like real dudes who are friends in a band.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting take. I do agree with that. It does sound like dudes, right? It does sound like a rock band. I think Mike Campbell has like some particularly tasty lines on this, but also this is another one like Rockin' Around, where it's with you. It just feels like it's still like they're still figuring it out. And it's both the songwriting and how the band like executes,
Agreed.
The songs.
Yeah, they don't quite know exactly how to best utilize their parts. Because again, it's a little different if you're like, yes. And you're like, well, everybody in the band fucking rips. And so we just do that. This is more like we have to find tasteful spots. And it's harder to do.
They're scrappy.
Yeah.
They're real people. Yeah.
How long does the producer go on to produce his stuff? What's his name?
Oh, Denny Cordell.
Because, I do wonder, like, there are sonic elements of the sound that are kind of, like, mostly realized.
So Denny Cordell produces their follow-up album. You're gonna get it, but there's also 2 other producers on it. And then by the time you get to Damn the Torpedoes, is Jimmy Iovine is producing.
Yeah,
I think we found our answer, guys.
Yeah. Denny Cordell was the problem.
Jimmy Iovine's not a billionaire for no reason.
Yeah, no, he's a very canny, savvy guy. But you know what? I got to give Denny Cordell a lot of credit that he literally was like, I will fly to Tulsa and meet you in a studio and fucking throw $5,000 down on the table and steal you away from this other record label because I see something in you.
Fair enough.
And then when your first band doesn't work, be like, no, Tom, I still believe in you and I'm still going to invest in you. Like, he knew something.
Or he was a degenerate gambler. It's one of those.
Yeah, well, Oh, good Lord. Speaking of gambles that didn't pay off, let's go on to the next song on our focus list. Fooled Again, parentheses.
Low point, clearly.
Clearly. Jesus Christ.
Is the third guitar chord at 5 seconds, is that a bad hit?
I don't know.
Is that purposely bad? What is that?
I don't know.
I think that's purposeful.
He never hits that again.
Yeah.
If it's a funky diminished chord on purpose or something.
The biggest issue that I have with this is that, like, Tom Petty goes like full fucking Petty vocal delivery on this one, and like you don't go full Petty. He doesn't quite know how to handle his weird delivery.
He does give a couple classic Tom Petty, whoa!
Yeah.
Like,
But he's like yawing on a bunch of those lines.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
"Ugh, dude, come on, man.
I think the singing is definitely struggling here. He squawks his way through the entire song, and then the outro vamping starts, and it gets worse.
Dude, at 1:34, it sounds like they go into like a sitcom interstitial song or something like that. The whole song is just like really kind of dark thing, and it's like boop a doop a doop boop boop. You're like, what the fuck, man?
Is that arrangement-wise, they keep stopping the song before it has a chance to get going. It's kind of bizarre.
And again, for a guy who has written so many fucking iconic lines, the chorus of "Fooled Again," I don't like it. What the fuck? I feel like I've been fooled again. I don't like it. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's a toddler.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, again, real swing and miss. And it was between this and Luna for low points for me. But again, I give them credit because Luna was trying shit, you know?
Luna's the one that starts real vibey and then his singing's really bad. Is that one?
Yes.
Yes,
totally.
next to last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than the obvious hits, what's one other song on this record you really liked?
I gotta say, if I had to pick one, it probably would have been Stranger Than the Night. That was the one that sort of stood out to me as like, again, I don't think that they were there, but I'm like, I get where they're coming from with this.
Nothing stood out to me other than the hits, to be honest. There was some stuff that was passable.
I kind of liked Mystery Man. But
okay.
I mean, it just sounded like a John Lennon or like the band song.
Sure.
It wasn't like groundbreaking or anything.
I did think of the band when we were talking about that first track, that if they just halved the tempo and gave it that relaxed behind the beat feel and sang Rockin' Around With You, it could be a band song.
It could be, but when you slow that tempo down, the paltry nature of those lyrics are going to come out way more pronounced. You're gonna be like,
for
right,
sure.
Really hammering those lines home there, Tom. One thing I will say, longest song on this album, 3 minutes and 57 seconds. There's a ton of songs that are like mid 2 minutes. They are really fucking tight.
They're economical, but the whole thing's only a half hour. So I think it's a little light in general.
It is a little light in general. But we are going to go on to the last song on our focus list and the last song on the album. This is such a good
iconic.
song.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good.
It's such a great drum beat, which is kind of weird and syncopated. Very effective intro.
Yes.
It really works, and it's his vocal.
As the little bass line.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of gets their moment, and he can really sing this one.
He can.
It's him stretching, but it's the right range.
And as much as we've been kind of shitting on some of his lyrical choices on this album,
These lyrics are amazing.
she was an American girl raised on promises. Backstory complete. You do not need to know anything else about this girl to know her motivations and everything.
That is an excellently crafted lyric. I also love, God, it's so painful, something that's so close and still so far out of reach. And I specifically love it that that fits perfectly with the melody he gave it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I really liked she stood out alone on her balcony. She could hear the cars roll by on 441, like waves crashing on the beach. Like the idea that 441 is a highway.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just makes it like very real for me.
I'm going to say something that may sound absurd on its face, but I really do think that the "Make It Last All Night" might be my favorite background vocal of all time. It really might be my favorite background vocal of all time. It's so fucking perfect. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like,
Yeah, of course.
No, absolutely, of course. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. That's like a fun Patreon episode, like this background.
The whole album has been funny because it has these very high points where you can see all the pieces just fit together perfectly. Right? They're good at organic sounding background vocals that took work to write, that they're their own parts, and that is one of them. And, it's a response vocal. It's not layered on top of a lead vocal, in other words.
Yes.
So I also think this song, maybe better than any other song on the record, almost certainly better than any other song on the record, has both a narrative and a musical arc contained within it.
Yes.
That's part of what makes it a perfect pop song.
It also has a perfect bridge.
It does.
Like a perfect bridge.
It does. And this might be the most played song of all time that prominently features bass harmonics. He's doing like the doom, 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 doom at the end. It's like no song features bass harmonics that gets any airplay. It's fucking amazing.
It was so good that 25 years later, the Strokes made it a hit again.
Yeah, he actually said basically like, and in his career, he has been pretty cool about not being like, they stole that song from me, whatever. He's been kind of like, yeah, man, like everybody kind of borrows from everybody else. Like, I don't care that the Strokes wrote a song that sounded remarkably like American Girl. He did sue that guy, Sam Smith.
He did, yeah. But I think, again, like they worked that out. Pretty
amicably. He wasn't like, I want 90% of the royalties.
I mean, I'm sure he got paid, right?
Totally.
He sounds like a pretty business savvy guy.
Yes.
Yeah, man, you got to buy those Vicodins with something. We've been stroking this song off, but I do have one complaint, which is it hits the peak with the fast guitar arpeggios and then immediately fades.
Yeah.
Like give us a second, Tom. Like you're not running long on the record, by the way.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
You can give us 20 more seconds of the band.
Rob, they already were at 3:33. He's like, we're pushing our limit here, guys. Shit's gonna fall apart, man. But I do also think that he is, again, as you talk about his business savviness, I think he's very conscious of like, a 3.5-minute song gets a shitload of radio airplay because you can pump a bunch more of those out than a 7-minute song. So let's just make them all tight. Let's make them all accessible. And on this one, 1000% knocked it out of the park. Super accessible, super tight song. But what do we think about the album overall? Is this an album that you must hear before you die? This is going to be a tough vote. And I am very curious to see where it is going to go. I'm going to go first to Phil.
Whew. Well, this is really a tough one. Earlier this week when I was thinking about this, and honestly, the conversation really didn't help. Sometimes the conversation helps clarify. Like I was like, okay, what are some other records, that were essentially batting 400? And I feel like the conversation, I feel like I'm down to like 300. I feel like I have like one less of the songs now. It sounds insane, but I guess I'm going to say no. I'm going to vote no on Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers debut, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. There are many other amazing records by Tom Petty. This has 2 smash hits on it, but the record kind of sucks.
Wow. There we go. 0 for 1. Rob, what say you, good sir?
I shan't keep you in suspense. It's an easy no for me, and I will rest well tonight, knowing that in my heart, we are building our own list, right? Obviously, Tom Petty is a great artist. I have much, much respect for him. I agree there's 2 amazing songs in here. The rest of it is not even really passable. I think it's below any reasonable expectation. We mentioned 2 other records in particular of his, Damn the Torpedoes and Wildflowers, that absolutely, in my mind, are essential. So unfortunately, even though Dimery got it wrong, I'm not going to be writing that wrong. I'm going to stick with my conscience. You do not need to listen to this debut.
Wow, man. My vote is meaningless at this point, but I gotta also give it a no. And that's not Tom Petty's fault. That's Robert Dimer's fault.
That's a shocking unanimous no.
Unanimous no. Full Moon Fever, Damn the Torpedoes, Wildflowers. All 3 of them 1000% deserve to be on this list. This album just does not. And I haven't actually even had to talk about my personal criteria in a long time for what I consider list worthy. And I am operating under the assumption that you have heard American Girl and Breakdown. Do you need to hear the rest of it? And the answer is an emphatic no. You do not need to hear the rest of it. There is not really anything else on this album that holds up to the best of Tom Petty. So, unfortunately, Tom, rest in power, man, but not on the list. The rest of the Heartbreakers, I'm sure you guys will be okay on your piles of 30% of the money that Tom had. And, you'll be just fine, but no, you're not on the list. And unfortunately, this is your only opportunity to be on the list. Forever banished Heartbreakers.
You're on the list in my heart, just not with this record, guys.
Yeah, not with this record. Whew. All right, that was a roller coaster, which came, as always, to the correct decision. Few things left to do. We will very shortly get our homework assignment.
Guys, one time, I just want to add this before we're done. One time I saw Tom Petty. This was the set list. He played You Wreck Me, Listen to Her Heart, I Won't Back Down, Even the Losers, Free Fallin', Mary Jane's Last Dance, End of the Line from the Travelin' Wilburys record. Then he brought out Steve Winwood, and they played Can't Find My Way Home and Give Me Some Lovin' by the Spencer Davis Group. Then he played the only song I didn't know all night called Saving Grace. Then he played Breakdown, Honeybee, Learning to Fly by himself, Don't Come Around Here No More, Refugee. The encore was Running Down a Dream, Gloria, and American Girl.
That's a fucking
You're right. I mean, you can sing along to all those tunes. Sadder note, I did read on the Wikipedia page for American Girl that it is also the last song he played with the Heartbreakers.
Oh, really? Yeah, that is heartbreaking. But what is going to lift up our spirits? I think I know. Rob, do you got that mailbag?
I sure do, Tomas. Here it is.
I'm hoping you don't have hate mail, by the way, because I just realized that's a roll of the dice to say, yes, our listener feedback is going to brighten our day.
No, we got some Cars feedback from very far away. So first up, we have Brian from Melbourne. Melbourne. He did try to prompt me to pronounce that correctly. That's in Australia. The Cars episodes got me thinking back to my mid-late teens and the music in my house. You see, my brother and I bought this Cars record when it was released. They were so uniquely different, so catchy to most other music we were hearing. It was the rhythmic nature. It was the strangeness of the synth. It was the jerky in and out guitar and the excellent rhythm section. The use of synthesizers at the time was, to my mind, the first successful crossover, at least that I can remember. Lyrics, by the way, did not and still do not matter to my listening enjoyment, and I just wanted to write you and tell you that all your episodes are interesting and fun listens, even when I hate the music. Keep up the good work.
All right. I thought he was going to say, even when I hate you and your stupid opinions, which we get a lot.
Indeed. The Cars was a fun episode, and I think pleasantly surprised all of us. We have one more here. Nick from Manchester writes, "Dear fellow complainers, I just finished the Cars episode. I have to say, it was one of my favorite episodes, so thank you. I didn't know the album at all before starting the episode, which is probably because the Cars were never really a thing in the UK, as you suspected and talked about on the episode. To me, they were the band who sang Drive in the 80s, another hit of theirs, and that was about it, and that feels like a completely different band from this album. So I listened, it clicked with me straight away. I'm not generally a big new wave fan, but everything about this worked for me, and thanks to you, the Cars will now become a much played album in my household. I've already got my kids to listen to it as well, so keep up the great work." Love it. Love hearing those stories. Love turning you on to really great music you haven't heard before, or getting you to complain along with us. Either way, send us all your thoughts, what we got right, what we got wrong, over to 1001albumcomplaints@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you to everyone who wrote in, and thank you to everyone who is listening all the way through to the end here, where we get our homework assignment for next week. And I have the Albinator. It has been in the gully out back, swimming with the alligators, getting all swampy. I want to see if I can get it to come on in here and spit out another album for us to listen to. So without any further ado, drum roll, please. We will be listening to... The album is one of those ones that appears on those best-selling albums of all time lists, and I'm always like, what the fuck? It is Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. The Loaf himself.
The Loaf himself, the big boy.
Yeah, who got real fucking weird later on in life and turned real fucking right-wing and did some terrible performances for like 2016 Donald Trump rallies where he did horrendous performances of America the Beautiful. Laughably terrible.
Awesome. Well, I'm pretty sure he's
His
dead
name
now.
is Robert Paulson. That's right, yeah.
Glad we could end this on a positive note.
Yeah, Meatloaf's dead. Everybody's happy.
I'm excited. You know what? You're right, though, Tom. I always see this. It is one of the best-selling albums of all time, but I have not listened to it, and it has been a blind spot for me. So I do want to know what the fuss is about.
Does this have Paradise by the Dashboard Light?
It does.
Okay, yeah.
Bat Out of Hell is on here, which is almost 10 minutes long. Paradise with the Dashboard Lights is 8.5 minutes long. And the closing track is also pushing 9 minutes.
Wow, yeah, this is a short album for the length that it is. But good Lord. Yeah, I'm looking forward. I actually kind of like Paradise by the Dashboard Light. I performed that with karaoke version of that with a coworker of mine at one point, and it was quite good. It's got nothing on I Would Do Anything for Love, but I won't do that. What the fuck that song was?
Which I believe is on Bat Out of Hell 2.
Isn't that called Back to Hell?
That might be the subtitle, Tom, but come on.
Okay.
All right, we'll save this content.
Unpack that next time.
Yeah. Excellent. That is super exciting. So we all have our homework assignment for next week. Listen to Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell. Thank you for listening all the way through. For everyone here at 1001 Album Complaints, I have been Tom.
I have been Phil.
And I'm Rob.
An American Boosh.